Miguel Uribe Turbay was a Colombian senator and a prominent liberal politician. In 2025, he was preparing to run for Colombia's 2026 presidential elections, positioning himself as a major opposition figure. One of the biggest political rivals was Colombia's sitting president, Gustavo Petro, one of Trump's enemies. Petro was elected in 2022. He had long been accused by critics of maintaining indirect political influence through militant groups, including one known as Urbana, a militia allegedly linked to multiple killings and intimidation tactics. While Petro denied any direct involvement, many senators opposed what they viewed as the normalization of violence in politics. Miguel Uribe Turbay was one of the most outspoken voices against this climate. There is a difference between a criminal militia and paramilitaries. Paramilitaries try to help out the country and the original military. Criminal militias try to do wrong to others. On June 7th, 2025, during a political rally at the El Golfito Park in the Modelia neighborhood of Fontibon, a suburb of the capital, Bogota, just minutes away from their downtown, Miguel Uribe Turbay was given a speech. It was out in the open air. He was surrounded by so many people. He loved the community. Two kids from nearby neighborhoods showed up to the rally armed. Right when the senator was speaking about mental health, gunshots erupted. He was shot from behind. The crowd freaked out and ran off. They spotted the shooter running off as well and pointed at him to nearby police officers. The Colombian National Police chased him, asked him to stop, and shot him in the leg to stop him. Injured and on the ground, he surrendered and was put into handcuffs, being rushed to the Fontibon Urgency Hospital, blocks away. There, he underwent surgery and remained briefly under medical supervision while chained to his hospital bed. The other armed kid did not shoot, as he did not get a good angle and ran away. Meanwhile, the senator was rushed to the Engativá Medical Center. Doctors confirmed he had been shot 3 times. One bullet missed, but was pretty close to him. Another struck his head. 2 struck his head, in fact, but one of them was more severe than the other. One of them blasting his brain and severely damaging it. These Bogota doctors knew that most likely, if he survived this, his brain would be damaged permanently, and he would be handicapped for the rest of his life. He would be unable, most likely, to pursue politics further. His brain had been permanently penetrated. He was somehow still alive, but although surgeons managed to operate successfully, to do the surgery with no issues, his injuries were catastrophic. He was placed into intensive care, unconscious and in critical condition. Shortly after that evening, he was transferred to the Santa Fe Foundation Clinic in Bogota due to the severity of his condition. The police questioned and investigated the captured shooter. They identified him as 14-year-old Juan Sebastián Rodriguez Casallas. The 14-year-old claimed that he came from a poor family and did what he did for the money. He claimed someone was paying him to shoot this senator. He really did not care about the politics. He was just doing it to get the pesos and hand it over to his family. Investigators determined he had been hired by someone superior to carry out the assassination. He was hired by a criminal organization that he had access to. At the time of his arrest, Juan Sebastian was carrying his cell phone. He had met these criminals online and had been chatting with them via WhatsApp. Authorities analyzed the phone's contents, uncovering messages and call records that led investigators to identify additional suspects involved in plotting and executing the attack. At the time of his arrest, Juan Sebastian was cooperative and seemed remorseful. Colombia's Attorney General, Luz Adriana Camargo, personally vowed to prosecute everyone responsible and charge them. Early in the investigation, speculation arose that President Gustavo Petro himself might have been involved, ordering this attack. He was briefly listed among 10 potential suspects, one of them being him and the other one the captured shooter. However, investigators quickly ruled out that Petro was a suspect due to insufficient evidence. Therefore, he would not be charged. Ultimately, 9 suspects remained, one of them the shooter in custody. The Attorney General charged them with attempted aggravated murder, an illegal weapons offense, and a criminal conspiracy offense each. Carlos Camargo Asís, the director of Colombia's Public Defender's Office, promised counsel to the suspects in order for them to be legally assisted during this criminal process. On June 10th, 2025, Juan Sebastian Rodriguez, the shooter, was discharged from the hospital and transferred over by the Colombian National Police on a truck to the Bogota Fiscalia bunker. He appeared virtually via WebEx before Guarantees Judge Diana Marcela Cruz Orduña of the Palo Quemao Judicial Complex, the courthouse. The judge ordered that he remain detained at the bunker to await trial. Juan Sebastian pleaded not guilty to the charges. 3 days later, another suspect, 17-year-old Cristian Camilo Gonzalez Ardila, made headlines. He turned himself into the bunker. Cristian admitted to his role in the plot. He had intended to be one of the shooters, but failed to get a clear angle at the rally. He had been at the scene and had ran off later. He had been armed the whole time. His co-conspirator, the shooter, had succeeded in getting a good position. The next day, Cristian appeared via WebEx before Judge Cruz Orduña, who ordered that he remain detained in a group home operated by an institute, the ICBF, which is Colombia's family agency. They focus on caring for people's kids while they are going through a situation such as a divorce or an incarceration, things like that, or even homelessness, runaways, for example. On June 12, 2025, the day before that, 23-year-old Carlos Eduardo Mora Gonzalez, the getaway driver, was pulled over in Modelia and arrested. Although he failed to retrieve the shooter, he did pick up Cristian Gonzalez, the one who did not shoot and run off. Carlos's job that day, the day of the rally, was to pick up both shooters and help them flee from police. After committing the attack, Carlos was transferred over to the Fiscalia bunker and appeared the next day via WebEx before Judge Noel Ricardo Corte Bernal, who ordered him to remain detained to await trial. Carlos pleaded not guilty and would continue to stay at the bunker. The following day, on June 14th, the National Police spotted and arrested 19-year-old Catherine Martinez, in Florencia, Colombia. She had been walking by when the officers randomly confronted her and took her away in handcuffs. She is known as Gabriela. She was identified as a person who handed the gun to the shooter. She was at first briefly detained at the Florencia police station, then driven by the officers to the Gustavo Artunduaga Paredes Airport, and there she was put onto a plane funded by the National Police and flown to the El Dorado Airport in Bogota. From there, the National Police took her on a steel truck to the Fiscalia bunker in downtown Bogota. After a 2-day in-person hearing before a judge, Marta Jacqueline Moyano Vera, she was ordered to remain detained at the bunker. She pleaded not guilty to the charges. On July 1st, 2025, Canada Day, Interpol publicly identified 40-year-old Elder Jose Arteaga Hernandez, also known as El Costeño, a career criminal who laundered money through a hair salon, funds from selling cocaine, as the mastermind behind the assassination, behind the shooting. At this point, it was an attempted assassination. On July 5th, security forces raided a house in the El Muelle neighborhood of Engativá, Colombia, arresting him without resistance. Elder was taken to the Fiscalia bunker in Bogota. The following day, he appeared virtually via Microsoft Teams before Judge Laura Juliana Duarte Cuitian, pleading not guilty to the charges and being ordered to remain detained at this bunker to await trial. On June 19th, 2025, the National Police raided another home in Engativá, capturing 25-year-old William Fernando Gonzalez, known as El Hermano. He was a cell phone seller. He provided the equipment that the attackers used to communicate with one another. He also helped transport participants after the attack, moving them around. He was taken to the Fiscalia bunker in Bogota, where he appeared on a WebEx call and was ordered to be detained at the bunker by Judge Javier de Jesus Rodriguez Gonzalez. The hearing took place the following day. On August 30th, 2025, back in the El Muelle neighborhood, the National Police raided yet another home, capturing 26-year-old Harold Daniel Barragan Ovalle. He was accused of coordinating transportation and planning the attack through a WhatsApp group chat called Plata o Plomo, meaning money or bullets. He appeared virtually on September 4th from the bunker through a WebEx call before Judge David Gutierrez Camacho. On October 27th, 2025, the National Police raided a farm in the town of Puerto Lleras in a whole nother department, the Department of Meta, capturing Simeon Perez Marroquin, known as El Viejo. He was airlifted by helicopter to the Guaymaral Airport in the outskirts of Bogota, the town of Chía, and then transferred on a steel truck by the National Police to the Fiscalia bunker in Bogota. On the 29th, on a Microsoft Teams call, Judge Natalia Andrea Mejia Roballo ordered that he remain detained at that bunker to await trial. All charged people would be tried at the Palo Quemao Judicial Complex, where their initial hearings took place. Many of the participants were poor people involved in drug dealing who knew each other from their neighborhoods and exchanged WhatsApps. Despite weeks of medical treatment, the victim, the Senator Miguel Uribe Turbay, died on August 11, 2025, due to complications from his gunshot wounds At that point, all charges were upgraded from attempted aggravated murder to aggravated murder. Some of the suspects got their charges fully amended. The senator's body was prepared by the Gavidia Funeral Home and displayed at the Electio Hall of Colombia's national capital, the Palace of Justice. President Petro declared a national day of mourning on August 12th. There was even an hour for only loved ones to have their own viewing, a private one, but the rest was open to the public. On August 13th, the senator's coffin was transported by the Presidential Guard to the Primate Cathedral of Bogota, where Mass was held by Cardinal Luis José Rueda Aparicio. Singer Yuri Buenaventura performed. Miguel Uribe Turbay was later buried after a brief procession at the Central Cemetery of Bogota in a central nave. A final prayer was led by Lebanese Monsignor Fadia Abu Chebel, honoring the senator's Lebanese heritage. Cristian Gonzalez cooperated fully with investigators. As a result, the Attorney General granted him immunity, and he was released on July 30th, 2025, leaving the group home and becoming once again a free person. I agree with this because, despite being involved in plotting the attack, he still fully cooperated with investigators, and he did not even shoot. He repented for his well-being. The shooter, Juan Sebastián Rodriguez, under a negotiated deal, pleaded guilty to the charges on August 5th, 2025. Weeks later, on the 27th, Judge Ardila Espinosa sentenced him to 7 years in juvie prison. He is currently incarcerated at the Youth Reclusion Center in Tunjuelito, a suburb of Bogota. Due to his cooperation and his poor background, the sentence makes sense. Now, we have to discuss a 10th person, someone who made headlines later on. In October of 2025, the Attorney General announced that Jorman David Mora Silva was being accused of having the shooter be put in contact with Elder, the mastermind, through criminal connections. Jorman Mora, a 25-year-old, convinced the 14-year-old shooter and the 17-year-old as well to get involved, messaging them via WhatsApp. Doing so while in custody at the URI Center in Engativa, the headquarters of the prosecutors that deal with smaller crimes. He was at their cell block and had been placed there on May 4th that year, as guarantees Judge Marta Lucia Olaya Patiño kept him in custody on a pretrial detention. This person was nicknamed El Caleño. From this cell block and during the Palo Quemao case, he threatened investigators looking into the shooting. He had been in there for robbery. On the 25th day of that month, Judge Yanni Patricia Garcia Otalora accepted his pleas of not guilty to the charges and prepared to schedule a trial. When his involvement in the shooting was made public, the shooting-related charges were amended to conspiracy, terrorism, and internal threat. On July 18, 2025, he was put on trial for the unrelated robbery case. All he faced was one severe theft charge. And days later, on the 22nd, Judge Jose Antonio Sastoque Fernandez de Castro convicted him, immediately imposing a sentence of 28 months and 24 days in prison. He was held temporarily at the La Picota prison in Bogota until he was officially tied to the shooting investigation. He was moved to the Bogota Fiscalia bunker and has pleaded not guilty to those charges. He did so before that one judge I recently mentioned. He remains at the bunker awaiting trial for the shooting case. Who else remains at the bunker awaiting trial for the same case? Harold Barragan and Simeon Perez Marroquin, while Elder Arteaga is at the Hidon prison and William Gonzalez at the La Dorada prison, one in Santander and the other in the department of Caldas. Their trials have not yet been scheduled. Those two I just mentioned were moved out of the bunker due to security reasons. That occurred on September 28, 2025. On October 29th, Carlos Mora, the getaway driver, pleaded guilty to his charges under a negotiated deal and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. He is currently incarcerated at the La Picota prison in Bogota. Gabriela Martinez, the one who passed the gun to the shooter, pleaded guilty also under a negotiated deal on January 14th, 2026. She remains at the bunker awaiting sentencing, one that has been scheduled for February 23rd of this year. I will let you know what happens. There may be another episode about this in the future. All convicted individuals have appealed their cases. Those appeals and the broader investigation remain ongoing. Thank you for listening to this episode of Strawberry Ink. May the ones affected rest in peace. Have a good rest of your day and take care.